Hi everyone, welcome back at Charlotte from at Charlotte's house. The weather is still warm, but I am thinking ahead and I have some Christmas plans for this playhouse. Stay tuned. I am working with homes.com and I am hoping to transform this Little Tikes plastic playhouse into a colorful Christmas wonderland. I can't wait. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to unpack the house. I am hoping that I can do a lot of this work before I assemble the house. Let's see what we're dealing with. One of the first orders of business for this playhouse makeover was to add color, and lots of it. I figured it would be a lot easier to paint the playhouse before I assembled it, so I laid out drop cloths on the driveway and I gave it a coat of spray primer. Now, in hindsight, I wish I had been a little bit more patient with my prep work, and I should have wiped down the surface of the playhouse, given it a light sanding, or even used some liquid sandpaper. The primer worked really well in most places without doing the prep work that I should have done, but there were a few shinier places like the doors and the door frames that still seemed to scratch a little bit despite the primer. So that is definitely user error. I should know better, but I just get impatient and I want to start these projects. I let the primer sit for 24 hours to fully cure, and then I went back over the larger parts of the playhouse with colorful spray paint. There were areas where there was a little bit of overspray, and so I was able to correct this with some regular old latex primer and a paintbrush. For the bricks and the grout lines, I knew I needed to be a little bit more detailed, so here I used just regular old craft paint and little paintbrushes. I was impatient to see the house all assembled, so once I'd finished painting, I went ahead and I put it together. But I forgot about one idea I had for these two little niches on either side of the windows, and I should have finished this step before assembling it. But no worries, I was able to turn the house on its side, and I was still able to do this next step. But again, in hindsight, I should have done this first. I wanted to glue these glass gems and make sort of a stained glass window, so I used Gorilla Glue and I laid them out and glued them in place, and then I poured some epoxy resin on top. A little trick with epoxy resin, you will get bubbles, but if you gently breathe on the surface of your resin, all of those bubbles should come to the surface and you're going to end up with a crystal clear coat, which is exactly what I was going for. Before I added the shingles, I hung non-breakable ornaments under the roof by drilling small holes into the playhouse and then tying the ornaments in place. I'm spray painting these tin caps, and I think I'm going to use these as sort of fun shingles on the roof. I love working with tin caps because they're really inexpensive. I think one box has 80 pieces, and I want to say it was $3.50. And then I'm just using basic Rust-Oleum spray paint in all these sort of fun, colorful candy colors. For the roof, I needed a lot more of the tin circles than I expected, but it basically came together just like I'd planned. I used a fast-setting Gorilla Glue to adhere the tin circles directly to the roof. I started at the bottom and I moved my way towards the peak of the roof. There were areas on the edge of the roof and along the eaves where I bent and cut the circles to make them fit. I would say that if you're planning to use this playhouse for children, that I would probably refrain from cutting any of the tin circles. Where I cut, it was a little bit sharper than I think I'd feel comfortable with if my kids were playing in the house. I picked up a plain doormat at Joann, and then I was able to use 2 pieces of scrap wood to help me stencil off the stripes. I used that same Rust-Oleum spray paint that I used for the rest of the house, and this is such a colorful striped welcome mat for the playhouse. Okay, so other fun details. I wanted to think about how the house would look for photography, so I grabbed some pool noodles and I wrapped them with duct tape, and then I bent the top over and tied it in place with some monofilament, and they look just like candy canes. I was able to stick small wooden dowels into the ground, and the pool noodles slide right on top, and I think they look really fun. Believe it or not, I had all of those pastel Christmas trees in my stash, so Obviously, we don't have snow on the ground in October when I had to photograph this, so the Christmas trees were as festive as I could get, but I love the way they match the rest of the house. Just for fun, I added some pastel washi tape to that triangle over the eaves. This probably wouldn't be very practical if your playhouse is going to live outside, but for me, I thought it was a really fun finishing touch. There were a couple fun wooden accessories that I was able to attach to the sides of the playhouse. I attached these by simply drilling a hole through the wooden accessories and right through the plastic sides of the playhouse. And then I used a nut and a bolt and in a couple places some washers just to make sure that they were extra secure. Neither of the wooden accessories were all that heavy, so they seemed to be pretty sturdy. I'm not too worried about that. I used my Cricut to cut out letters from paper, and then I glued them in place onto these plain wooden craft boards, and they fit that wooden signboard perfectly, and it's such a fun way to welcome kids into the playhouse. So I have these fun wooden window boxes. I gave them a coat of paint, and they hold those mini sparkly Christmas trees perfectly. And then my personal favorite, fairy lights and a disco ball inside the playhouse roof. Who wouldn't want to spend time looking up at that on a cozy winter evening? Sadly, my children are all a little bit too big to really enjoy this house, but I certainly had the most fun decking these mini halls for the holiday. Thanks again to Homes.com for such a fun competition. Make sure you head over to their site. It's linked in the video profile to vote for my Playhouse Makeover. The winner gets to donate not only a playhouse, but also $750 to the charity of their choice. So this was a fun project that I could really get behind. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and have a great day, everyone. Happy holidays.